So today we are going to talk about benchmarking. Now the point is that usually we talk about so much about benchmarking or the kind of evaluating a particular process. But what does it actually mean? And how specifically you are gonna use the process of benchmarking in a particular environment? So these are the sort of basic questions, but these are gonna put you some fundamental details in front of you, because ultimately when you are going to explore the kind of related details, you are going to find so much related articles and the kind of material that is gonna help you out from this particular situation, that how to start a process of benchmarking, then how to proceed with, and how specifically you are gonna get to know that whether you are coming on to the right path and you are moving forward in the right direction or not. So in this particular video, we are going to talk about all these things, and surely over the period of time, slowly you will learn the whole process of benchmarking. So let's just start. Hey there, my name is Rohit Kumar, and today we are going to talk about the benchmarking, the kind of related aspects, the process to go on with, and the kind of other multiple challenges. So starting with the very basic definition of benchmarking. So here we are at the Wikipedia turned Wikiland, and here we are gonna have the basic punchline, that is, it is nothing but the practice of comparing business processes and the performance metrics. Now the point is that when you are comparing the business processes and the performance metrics, then there should be some sort of criteria or some sort of other standard practices with which you are trying to compare. So always there you are going to have some sort of industry best and sort of best practices. So always best in best sort of things you are going to have in your hand. Aforementioned procedures means the sort of multiple in every field. In every field, there are a number of best in best procedures, because when you are gonna explore a particular field, there are thousands of techniques of doing a particular work. And if there are those hundreds of techniques, thousands of techniques, then which are the sort of 8 or 10 techniques which are kind of most popular or the most performance oriented that you need to take care of? Then you have your own processor. Now compare your processor or your practice with those practices, and then show the kind of improvement or kind of comparison. That is a process benchmark. Means it is nothing but just showing that how specifically your processor is performing with respect to the some sort of best existing practices. So coming to the specific thing, that in which dimensions we should go on, or which dimensions the kind of which are going to affect this particular process of benchmarking or the sort of thing. So there might be multiple dimensions, but in particular, the sort of typical dimensions which are considered are the quality, time, and the cost. Now here, this particular definition of quality, time, and cost, again, these are sort of subjective things. But time is sort of constant only, we can say, because every where doesn't matter in which domain or environment you go in or you move in, the time is always kind of constant, but still it's a parameter, means it's a unit sort of thing that is gonna matter. So in some environment, you are going to get performed with respect to nanoseconds. Somewhere you are going to have a careful consideration of picoseconds and sort of thing. Now, when you are coming to quality, quality is highly subjective, because in some of the processes you are gonna have a particular standard of quality, but in other environment that is totally useless. So specifically from case to case also it varies, that which quality is at par in a particular situation and which quality is not at all considerable at all. Then the cost. Again, how specifically you are measuring this definition of cost, that is important. So what is cost for you? What is the cost for your process? It means something that is not bearable for a particular model or a process, that is its cost. So you always try to minimize the cost. And that's why when you have the minimum possible cost at your side, that is supposed to be considered the kind of best process with the right sort of outcome. Now here, this is the very basic definition from Wikipedia. Now we are going to close it and we are going to move on to some specific things, like for example, benchmarking procedure. So usually when the people do go for benchmarking, they are gonna have the number of things in their mind, but what specifically you are gonna have in a benchmarking procedure, or how a benchmarking procedure is gonna look like. So we are having some of the basic sort of considerations. So here they are listing, means all these articles which I am considering in this particular video or in any of my videos, They are taken from some public sources, like this is also taken from AST.org. So always take note of these sort of things. Now, considerations involve that before an organization can achieve the full benefits of benchmarking, its own processes must be clearly understood and understood. Means you should have a well understanding of all the existing processes and the relative controls. Then the benchmarking studies require significant investment of manpower and time. That's quite obvious, because benchmarking, it is not always software driven. And even though it is software driven, there are some sort of manual interventions or the sort of manual help that is gonna needed. So that's why the time and the people both are gonna needed. Third is too broad a scope dooms the project to failure. Now this is very, very critical, because usually we think that we have designed a very rough sketch of some process, or we have designed a vague process, but still we think, okay, what's the drawback? Just go for the kind of benchmarking process. We'll evaluate, then we'll get some sort of random results. Doesn't matter good accuracy or the high level of precision, but still we are gonna get some results. Later on, we'll repeat the process, we'll improve it, and then again we'll get some results, and hopefully they'll be better. And in this way, we'll refine it, and we'll get the best results. The procedure means this sort of working looks okay, but ultimately it is gonna cost you lots of time, additionally lots of cost. So this saving of cost as well as the time could be done if you find the right sort of procedure and you try to optimize it first before going for the benchmarking process. Because benchmarking is a kind of thing that is gonna need your resources. So if you are going for benchmarking on a rough sketch of process, then it's a kind of thing that you are just wasting your resources. You are wasting the time of people, you are wasting the sort of valuable resources. For example, some resources are highly critical in organizations. So if you are gonna use them, then it's of no use. But obviously, this thing that refining the process again and again, this is part of the process. But don't start with a very rough sketch. At least try to optimize first at your side, then only go for the benchmark. Then the next point, inadequate resources can also do a benchmarking study. That's also completely true. For example, you don't have the right sort of resources which are required to perform a benchmarking. And you are thinking, okay, no issue, let's start the benchmarking, we'll get some results. Might not be that too accurate, but these will be somewhat closer results or something like that. But do you really think that a process which is involving some critical parameters, or a process which is gonna get performed or gonna get used in a particular critical environment, those are supposed to be having this much gap of consideration that yes, let's go with some of the basic resources or some of the limited resources, and then we come on to some of the limited results, and then we are gonna put in the paper or and publish or sort of things. No, these things are gonna get you in a particular position that you are gonna lose your reputation, or you are gonna lose the kind of scientific considerations in your name. Because ultimately, whatever results you are putting in front of a public community, those are supposed to be evaluated by a large audience. Unless the sort of things you are putting in the local environment or sort of thing, but it is highly recommendable that always take the adequate number of resources in hand before going for the benchmarking. Then only you are gonna be in a right position. Then all these basic things you have considered. Now come to the plan. So first thing, that define a tightly focused subject of the benchmarking study. That's quite obvious, because if you don't have the right sort of focus, you're gonna lose the right path. Then form a cross-functional team. That is also very much required, because you need the manpower and the right sort of process. So process you are gonna get detailed later on, but firstly try to form a right team. A right team means the people who are having the specific level of skills and the kind of expertise in their hand. Because if they are not gonna have it, they are not gonna get performed the process of benchmark. Third is study your own process. Now, when you have designed a process, it's good. But many times it's like this, that you have designed the process, so it looks perfect to you. But why not to have a second alternative opinion of third person or something like that? So always involve people, or take some second or third opinion from the people on your process. Or you can do, if you don't have the more number of hands, why not to just study your process again and again, just to make a surety that yes, now you are going for benchmarking, which is gonna cost you bit, which is gonna cost you some repetition. So that's why come on to a right process plan first, then only go for benchmark. Now, last, that identify the partner organization that may be having the best practices. And it is very important because it is a real practical environment situation that we don't have all the resources at our side many times, because nobody is fully functional or fully capable unless you are a very great organization or very good or big organization. So if you are a limited resource organization, so you can partner with some other organization. You can take help of some other organization and give them the due credit. So that is perfectly fine. For example, cloud. Cloud computing is a kind of technology which is going to offer you the kind of resources on the pay basis. Similarly, you can rent the resources from third organization. You can partner with them and having a kind of MOU or collaboration. And then you can go for the kind of benchmark. But all this kind of resources and the best practices or the required manpower should be in hand before going for benchmark. Then collect the information needing from the partner organizations or from the kind of process which are gonna get focused. Then coming on to the analysis part, you have collected the data. Now you are supposed to analyze the results. You are supposed to find out the kind of gaps, means the kind of errors in your expected as well as the standard values. Then you are gonna get adapt. Adapt means ultimately you are going to make a kind of refinement in the process, because when you are having the sort of results in your hand, then you see that what is the sort of gap between the actual as well as the desired in the achieved results. So then you try to minimize those errors with different sorts of plans or the sort of actions. Then coming on to the benchmarking examples, so there are multiple benchmarking examples. I'm not gonna get into the details of these things because the video will get long. Okay, let's close it, move further. Now we are on the apqc.org, and this is just offering you the multiple types of benchmarking, because we have seen the basic meaning of benchmarking. We have seen that how to do the benchmarking. Now, what are the different types of benchmarking? So there are multiple types of benchmarking, and it also depends on the kind of environment or the kind of process you are taking into hand. So, for example, a technical benchmarking process might be completely different from a management environment benchmarking. Similarly, if you are going for an internal benchmarking, it might be completely different from external benchmarking. So these are some of the types, but general types, if people talk about that, one is the performance benchmarking, which is kind of that you gather some of the related data and you compare with the qualitative data. And that qualitative data means might be having multiple statistics, and those qualitative data might be having some quantities. So obviously you are going to have some performance indicators which are going to help you out. Now, point is that when you are talking about performance benchmarking, then what are the sort of things that you are going to need? So they are saying that standard measures or the key performance indicators are going to get used, because they are a sort of mean of extracting, collecting, and analyzing the data. But actually, what is you specifically get? So you get the data that informs the decision making, and usually the benchmarking involves these sort of things just to identify the sort of performance gaps. Then the performance benchmarking, it is like that gathering and comparing the qualitative information about how activity is conducted through the people, process, and the technology. So as we are saying that we are focusing on practice. So ultimately you are gonna need the people, process, and the technology part first, not the data part much. But still, data is the prime focus. So it doesn't matter whether it's a data or metadata, you are gonna need the data. So what you need a standard approach to gather and compare the qualitative information such as the process mapping, and what you actually get, you get the insight where and how the performance gaps occur and the best practices that the organization can apply to other areas. Moving on to the third part, we have the internal benchmarking, which compares the metrics, means the performance indicators with the practices from the practice benchmarking in different units and the different product lines, departments, etc., etc. So what you specifically need, you need at least 2 areas within the organization that have shared metrics or the practices, because ultimately you are gonna get comparison. Then what you get the good starting point to understand the current standard of business performance. So means slowly, starting from the internal benchmarking, you can move on to the external benchmarking, and you'll learn a lot. Coming on to the external benchmarking, they're gonna say that you are supposed to compare the metrics of one organization to the other or the many organizations. Then what you specifically gonna need, you are gonna need the one or the more organization to agree to participate, because unless the other organizations are not ready to offer you their key performance indicators or the data, then you are not in a position to compare them. But what specifically you get from this particular benchmarking, you get an objective understanding of your organization's current state. And this is important because every organization wants to know that where do we stand in a global environment, and that's why it is required. So these are just some common benchmarking processes. You can go for other types also, which are just categorized according to the context. Moving on to the next, so there are 8 basic steps which are given by the Lizard chart, and these are just considered. Most of these steps we have already covered in the other article. So we are saying that why it is important. So I have chosen this particular article for this particular part specifically, that we have understood what is benchmarking, how to do it, the types of benchmarking, but why you are doing it, means what is the motive. So motive is that you want to improve the processes and the processors. Ultimately, no process or the procedure is perfect. Over the period of time, different challenges do come up. The technology changes, multiple changes do happen. Manpower changes their places, and all these things happen. So you need to consistently evaluate whether we are using the right processes or the procedures. If not, just try to have a look onto that. Then gauge the effectiveness of the past performance, because past performance is past performance. Now you need to focus on the current performance and what is the performance going to look like in future. So always look into that. Then benchmarking is coming to help you out in this. Then give you a better idea of how the competition operates, because as we talked about the internal as well as the external benchmarking. Internally, for example, there is a college. So how 2 departments in a particular college or institutions are performing. So you can compare their research, the kind of academics or the other sort of key performance indicators. But suppose a college or the institute wants to perform a benchmarking based on its achievements with respect to the kind of achievements from other institutions. So, for example, a local college is trying to compare its achievements with some IIT or some good reputation institute. So you need to have the statistics from your side also, from that institute also, and then you need to compare. So this gives you a better idea that in a global competition where you are standing. Hope you understand. Then increases the efficiency and lower cost, because ultimately over the period of time you see that which parts or the which key performance indicators are contributing more, so you are gonna focus on that more. And obviously when you are focusing in the right direction, you are gonna incur the less costs. Then improve the quality and the customer satisfaction, obviously, because if you are moving in the right direction with the help of benchmarking process, then you are gonna improve the quality outcome, and if the quality is good, then the customers will always be satisfied. Then the types of benchmarking they have included, like internal, external, competitive, etc., etc. As I told you, there might be some different types of strategic, competitive they have talked about, but still they are sort of more or less similar sort of things. So that's all from my side. If you didn't like anything, please do comment below and let me know that what are the sort of shortcomings in this particular video. Obviously, any video is not sufficient, and I tell in my videos multiple times that don't rely on this or any particular video solely. Do your own research at your side, and research will give you, your own research will give you the ultimate answers. Thanks for watching. Have a